is a waterfall of windmills and rockets and empty baskets. In my heart is a waterfall, bleeding pine trees and lit up windows and poison arrows. In my heart is a waterfall of silver linings and dirty laundry and bedtime hate.
Hi everyone, today we're discussing a topic that can be very emotional, somewhat complicated, and a little bit scary, and that is downsizing in retirement. I have had numerous conversations with friends. I've had to face some of this myself. Downsizing is not just about losing some square footage or moving into a smaller place. It's fraught with things like memories and a little bit of fear and freedom, dreams of spending time in a specific place, and also the memories of spending time in a specific place. So I thought we could tackle this topic together because I'm having some existential dilemma about this myself, and I always like to talk about things on my videos that I'm thinking about and that pertain to myself in retirement, because I believe that a lot of people are struggling or thinking about the same things. Hi, my name is Raina and this is Small Retired Life. On my channel, we talk about all things retirement, and we tackle all of the ups and downs in what should be the quieter and slower part of our lives. But I think my videos will appeal to anyone who enjoys slow and simple living. If you're new, welcome here. So today I would like to explore the dilemma of downsizing, why so many of us don't do it, why maybe we should do it, what are the cons, and what are some of the benefits. So let's maybe start off with some of the reasons why people don't downsize or find it very difficult to downsize. I would say the first thing is emotional attachment. This is especially true if you've lived in your home for a long time. There are so many memories in our homes. If you've had children, there are the Christmases and the birthdays and the good times and the bad times. And if you've lived in a home for a long time, this is especially the case. I've moved around quite a bit, so I don't really have a ton of attachment to most of the places that I've lived in. But I have friends who've lived in their homes for 20, 30 years and they've raised their children. And it's very difficult for them to move on from these familiar and cozy spaces. Secondly, there is the fear of change. I mean, we're not 30 anymore, and adjusting to new places and new neighbors and new routines is scary, or it's uncomfortable. Change is always uncomfortable. So many of us don't downsize because we're just not into wanting to face some of this change in a time of life where we're maybe already facing a lot of changes because we are retiring and our entire day-to-day is different. Number 3 would be the logistics of it. And I think this is actually probably the biggest one for people. If you've lived in a home for many years, you've just accumulated a lot of things, and selling it or getting rid of it, decluttering, all of that and what it entails can be really overwhelming. I mean, in my comments, I see viewers who have a hard time decluttering a drawer. They talk about how difficult it is for them to get going and get onto the journey of decluttering. So imagine now you have to declutter and get rid of an entire household of things. For a lot of people, that's kind of a lot to think about. Also, the selling of a home, the legal side of it, and then finding a new home, and there's the financial aspect of having to move money back and forth. So I think those are some of the logistical things, and people just don't want the hassle, and they will often put it off thinking, you know what, I'm just not ready for this right now. I'm going to do it later. And sometimes they never get around to it. I think also the social pressure. There's this concept of retirement that you've made it and you have all this freedom now and you live in a big home. You feel there's a certain social status with being in a bigger home or being in a home, a detached single family home. The idea of moving to a smaller place like a townhouse or an apartment condo feels like a step back for some people. This is very narrow thinking, but I think our society has conditioned us to believe that being in a single family detached home is the achievement of everything. Finally, number 5, I would say, is the concept of what if I need more space? It's thinking about the fact that you might have grandchildren and they might come over and you would like them to have their own room in your home, or you have guests that come in and stay overnight. And so where are you going to put them if you downsize to a much smaller place? These are legitimate concerns, and many people think about that. As a result, they choose not to downsize into something smaller. I believe there's definitely a case, though, to be made for downsizing. One of the first things is financial freedom. Going to a smaller home can often mean that you have a lower mortgage or you have no mortgage, lower property taxes, less property to look after, and the freedom to use that extra money to travel or do other things that are on your wish list. This is one of the reasons that I'm looking at downsizing even more from my townhouse to an apartment condo, because my property taxes in this particular home are extremely high. In Calgary, property taxes are based on market values. The market values in my area have increased substantially over the years since I've bought my townhouse. It's inner city, it's near the river, there's a lot of advantages to living in this neighborhood. And as such, my property taxes on my townhouse are actually more than most people pay on a single detached family home in other areas. I also am paying for a lot of space that I don't use. There's rooms in this townhouse that I never really use, even though it's not a large townhouse. And it's definitely smaller than my previous home. Because I'm single, I just don't use all this space, but I'm paying for it through my condo fees and through my property taxes. So there is a case to be made for some financial freedom that comes with downsizing to a smaller property. Another thing could be the physical realities. So let's face it, cleaning a big 3-bedroom home that's, 2,500 or 3,000 square feet, as many North American homes are, I think that's kind of a drag. Why would you want to do that when you have the freedom to do so many other things? When you have that much space, you still have to look after it, you still have to clean it. And whether you're doing it yourself and expending the energy, or you're paying someone else to do it, there is a cost involved. Also, if your home has stairs, and this is a practicality in my current townhouse, I have 3 levels here. There's a lot of stairs to climb. And although that's great for now, and I'm hoping that will be the case for many, many years, there may come a time where these stairs become a problem. So for those people who don't live in a 1-floor type bungalow, there could be the issue of doing things like stairs. The third thing is what I've touched on, and that's lifestyle shifts. In retirement, we have so much more freedom to do what we want to do. For some people, that means travel. I went to Australia for 2 months and I shut the door to my place for 2 months. My sister came and looked after it every now and then, but I think I would prefer to be in a building where there is a secured entrance with a concierge, parcel service, also someone that I could call if I see there's an issue with my suite. I do have my computerized thermostats and so on, so I can see what's happening in my home no matter where I am. But there's a benefit to having some kind of a service that will look after your home when you're gone, if you're gone for a long period of time. Also, again, who wants to clean a big house when you can do other things like travel or go golfing and that type of thing? I think downsizing is also being kinder to the environment. If there's only yourself or only the two of you living in a residence and you're living in a home that's 3,000 square feet, if you're in Calgary, you're paying a lot of money to heat that home and expending a lot of energy on heating a home that you're not really even using. Let's face it, two people in a huge home, you're barely touching some of those rooms. So there is a certain environmental benefit to being in a smaller space and just having a smaller footprint. And if that matters to you, then that is a good consideration for downsizing. I think the most important thing with downsizing earlier rather than later is that you choose to do it on your own terms. I think I mentioned in a previous video that my mom got Alzheimer's and my dad fell and broke his arm. They were living in a very large home on Vancouver Island. Essentially, they weren't capable of taking care of that home as they got into their 80s. My mom had a difficult time doing the stairs once her Alzheimer's became more severe. And my dad certainly couldn't deal with that home when he broke his arm. They had to be moved out of there, and we had to deal with disposing all of the contents of that home, getting rid of absolutely everything, and then selling the home. It is a lot to place on your children. And for many of us that are retired and single, and there is the consideration of who is going to look after all of this when you're gone. Or if you age and you need to move, who is going to look after helping you with this? So I would say that if you can downsize earlier and get into a situation where you're in a less high maintenance environment, then that will help you as you age, and in many cases you can probably age in place. So to quickly sum up some of these benefits, we have more time and energy to do the things we want to do because we're not spending our time looking after a large property. There's closer community. Some of these places like townhouse communities or condo apartment communities, you have people nearby, which is a benefit sometimes, especially if you're single, to have people that are near you who can help, who can assist, and who can kind of keep an eye out on your place when you're not there. I think that's a great benefit. You'll be pushed to declutter to go into a smaller home. You will have to go through your things, get rid of things that you're not using. And this is absolutely the most cleansing process that you can go through. Of course, I love decluttering, so it's easy for me to say, but there is a certain amount of benefit in emptying out the contents of your life, at least to a certain extent. Also, as I mentioned, aging in place, just being able to move on your own terms into a place that is perhaps more suitable for you to stay in long term in years where you may have less mobility and less ability to look after a large home. It's also the opportunity for a new beginning. Sometimes downsizing and moving from an old home into a brand new space gives you the push to do something different, do something new, and perhaps enjoy things that you haven't enjoyed previously, or you may not have had time to enjoy previously. Now, I have to be honest, and there's probably some cons to downsizing as well. I think there's an emotional cost to downsizing, in the sense that it is emotionally exhausting to have to go through all of your things, figure out what you're going to do with them, where they're going to go. Think about the actual financial issues of when you're selling a home, paying realtor fees, buying a home, paying legal fees, and all of that. It is a drain on our emotional energy. Moving is hard. There is no two ways about it. Smaller is not always better. Sometimes people make too much of a drastic change. I have to say, going from a detached home to a townhouse was a good segue. I still have my own property. I have my own little tiny bit of a yard. I have my own garage. It wasn't a huge shift. And so now if I moved into an apartment condo, it would be, again, not a huge shift because I've already downsized and decluttered so many of my things. I have to say, if you're going from a huge home into, let's say, a 2-bedroom apartment, that might be too much. So think about what you would be comfortable with before you go too small. Downsizing doesn't always fix everything. Some people think they're going to downsize and they're going to fix boredom, they're going to completely fix their finances, or they're going to fix their social situation and any other situation. And that isn't always the case. Yes, downsizing can certainly fix some things, but there could be other reasons why you're unhappy or why you're going through a negative time. And downsizing is not a cure-all. Downsizing is simply going into something that's slightly smaller that offers you more ability to lead the life that you want. And you have to already have some idea of what that life looks like. So the question is, should you downsize? And there really is no easy answer to that. It depends on so many factors. It depends on your finances, on your health, on your family situation, on your levels of energy. But I'll say this: don't make the decision out of fear. Make it out of a place where you really have considered what you want, you've looked at what you enjoy doing, and perhaps also consider what your future could look like. Whether you stay or you go, the goal is to build a life that's right for you, that's light, and that's peaceful. Let me know in the comments what you're thinking about, and if you've considered downsizing, and what are the things that you're thinking about as far as where you want to be, what type of home you would like to see yourself in. Is this something you're seriously considering? As always, have a little discussion in the comment section of this video. So this is it for this week. I hope you enjoyed talking about the topic, or at least considering it. And I will see you all next week at our regular time. Bye!